All right, and the second trip has been rescheduled. Okay, the Hindu temple trip has been moved to January 27th. January, June 27th. All right. It's going to be too hot in January. June 27th, due to Juneteenth, right? So we're going to avoid all of the crowds. They expected like 50,000 people on a federal holiday. So they suggested that we move. Any other details, Jeff? Okay. Yep. Because June 27th is going to be here before you know it.
No more real details other than if you think you want to go, send me an email like in your newsletter. Because at this point forward, I'll just communicate with the people that have signed up. So I won't put more information in the newsletter, but I'll have details for that day that I'll get out to you all. So that's about it.
Are you here? Yeah. Another announcement? Vince?
Just very quickly, check the newsletter for the competition. The deadline is coming up about a week or so from Sunday. Anything goes is the theme. And hopefully we'll get a really good turnout.
For both nature and...
Yeah, and anything goes in both nature and pictorial.
Details are in the newsletter, right? And I know everybody's reading it from cover to cover. Other than that, I think we're good. We are going to have on July 15th a workshop here. Usually we shut down for the summer. We're going to try to throw some things in on the calendar during the summer too, just to keep things going. So July 15th, Still Life hands-on workshop is going to be here. And again, the details are both in the newsletter and online. Okay. I think Ginny has posted it also on the Facebook page. So the schedule is on our Facebook group. So you want to visit there too. Did Lee get home to Australia safely?
Did.
Okay. It was nice to see Lee. Yeah, it was fun. And on our Facebook page, I noticed that he has a list of all the North American birds that he discovered while he was here. So, Lee is a big birder. And he has some crazy birds in Australia. He found our crazy birds here in the US interesting too. So thank you, Vince, also for the great outing to the cathedral. That was nice, and the museum. That was nice. So whenever you have an idea for an outing, please contact us and we can get it on the schedule. Even if it's a last minute, we can post it to the Facebook page and try to get together again for some outings. I hear, Vince, that we might get the Aurora again.
Next week.
Next week? Oh, really?
The prediction.
Okay. Last time we went, it just clouded up and we didn't see a thing, but it was nice standing out in the cold all together anyhow near the lake. So that's something that we might be able to get together again if we have a good weather, right? Yep. Bet you almost ready to go?
Yes.
Okay. I'm stalling. The last thing, I'm going to say it again.
One quick thing I just learned about the aurora. The color is dependent upon how high up in the atmosphere the electrical forces are. Like 10,000 feet, it's red. At 20,000 feet, it's blue, etc. So that's somehow affects the color.
Oh, okay. And it also affects GPS, as I hear. So some of the farmers weren't plowing the field straight because it threw off their GPS in their tractors by almost a half a mile when they're usually about a millimeter or centimeter within the GPS. So it could knock out some communications too, which I wouldn't mind. One more time, we need officers to step forward. So if you're willing to step forward, we need it, and we need those officers badly, right? And I will be sending out a survey and also a plea in a special email, and hopefully we get that together over the summer too. So I'm going to let Jay introduce Dutch. We always make our presenters really nervous when they come into the GoggleWorks. So Dutch has come into the GoggleWorks to present in person, and we have a couple of technical glitches, not glitches, but we have a couple technical things that we have to straighten out here. So he's our guinea pig in a bit, but I'm sure it'll be a great presentation. All right. So he's got his presentation, right? Okay. All right. So Jay, go ahead and introduce.
Can you share your screen, please?
Think it is.
Yeah. As soon as we start the presentation.
Okay, forgive me, everybody. I don't have Dutch's bio memorized, but I do know this. Dutch is one of my favorite photographers. He's been actively involved in photography seriously, and correct me, Dutch, if I'm wrong, for over 10 years since he retired, if I have it correct. His work is absolutely amazing to me, and that's why I rounded him up and asked him, kind of begged him a little bit, to do these trips with us, these outings to Philadelphia and to New York City this Saturday, and the post-processing workshop. So just want to really thank Dutch for doing this, and hope you can please let me know if you plan on going on any of the outings. I need to know who is going to go on the New York City, Philadelphia, or the post-processing workshop. Please let me know. Okay, just email me. Thank you.
Dutch, you're going to be using this. Close to your mouth. And you're going to walk through and just make sure you don't drag this off the table.
Okay, if I put this,
Yeah, and see if they ever.
does that work? Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, we want you to look over, Dutch.
Okay, all right, let's see.
No, we'll share your screen. Is this way, when you want to start, Dutch, with the PowerPoint?
Yes, I'm going to start off with this just to get that out of the way, because then you get a few questions maybe if they need that.
Everybody able to see it? Ask the crowd, Dutch.
Can everybody see the Berks Photographic Society page up?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we can.
All right, well, let me set this down here. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me. I'm proud to be a member here, along with the other 10 memberships I have at other clubs and things. So, for me, it's a learning experience and sharing what I know or don't know, and I find that you get to grow with sharing those kind of things back and forth. You ask a question, have to come up with the right answer, and those kind of things. So, I love doing this. So, first, what I'd like to talk about is the. Everybody can hear me? Good. The trips, I was just going to show some of the images of some of the buildings that we will be able to see. And I'm a Mac and Windows person, but I'm using your your Windows unit here, so I have to get a little bit used to it. Shouldn't be too bad. So the first trip is in New York City, and the second one is June 15th at Ben Franklin Parkway and the Navy Yard. Oops, this one goes down. I have to use my mouse, okay? Now I'm looking for the. Oh, there it's coming. It's coming. It's come. There it's come. There it is. Okay. Okay. These images are in New York City, NYC. These I happen to have talked with Jay already about and met with some of the people that are going to go. And I just wanted to contrast the difference in images that are there on the left-hand side, which is the actual image taken, and then how I processed it or the results of my processing afterwards. Okay, can I bring this down? There. A second building, a third building along the High Line. This is an elevator. This is up at the Apple store on 53rd or so and 5th. Then down the Navy Yard, you'll see on the left-hand side is the Intrepid building, but there are all kinds of architectural buildings down there that are wonderful to photograph. Along the Navy Yard, there's also ships. I will say that I just found out last week that the ship on the right, the JFK, has been moved out as of a week and a half ago. And it's on its way to Brownsville, Texas for scrap. So that ship is no longer there. That's been one of my favorite ships to go see, and it draws a lot of people down there. But there are other ships and so forth down there that we'll be able to photograph. Also down in Navy, there's all kinds of buildings that, just wonderful we'll be playing with. We'll go over any of those that you take. And on our ending workshop, we'll go over them, see what you need to figure out to enhance it, change it, or do whatever. At Franklin Parkway, there's all kinds of new and old buildings up and down the parkway. Old style architecture. Philadelphia is a old city, as you know. And there's two more, and in particular is the building on the left, which is a Masonic temple, which is right at City Hall on Broad Street. And it's a wonderful building to visit inside, have a tour. And I've been with two camera clubs who have gone down and been able to take tripods in and roam at their leisure. So that may be something you may decide you might want to do in the future. Other things. Any questions so far on that? That's just to show you where we're going to go and some of the buildings that might be available for you to photograph. But there are many, many, many more. You'll have all kinds of options to photograph buildings. Okay, no questions there. Now, let's see if I can get to, I need to get out of this. Escape. Okay. And we'll minimize this one. Okay. And oh, I have to do the slideshow thing. Come on, Mousy. Okay. I call my presentation Architectural Haiku. This is how I process my image. I'm a self-taught individual, so I go and talk to people, go online and look at things. What I'm showing you here is how I do mine. There are probably a myriad of ways that you can do yours. YouTube, I talk to other people who process the same way I do. And I do have several favorites as far as artists who sell their processing software and so forth, and presets. And I have a little reference page in the end that will let you know who they are and so forth. And if you have any questions at any time, just yell them out and we'll see if we can answer them. So I'm getting this mouse down to get to my.
He's a Mac guy.
Well, yeah, right, yeah. Okay. Just a little bit about me. Made family event photographs like most of you guys did too. Purchased a 35mm film and camera in the 60s. Late 70s, started using view cameras. In 2014, I joined a camera club, Cheltenham, and right outside of Philadelphia. And learning from that group, I just started entering a whole lot of different competitions and just got blown away with that. I like architecture, especially up in New York. I was just there 2.5 weeks ago to take a walk and see some of the nice, exceptional buildings they have there to photograph. Some shameful self-promotion though. I love competitions. I keep detailed spreadsheets on every aspect of that. I give a presentation on that, and also on camera motion. Like I say, I enter quite a few competitions. I've been accepted quite a ways around, and I just love doing that. I've been rather busy this year, but haven't entered as many, but typically 20, sometimes 30 in a year. And it does get expensive, yes. Okay. Part one, we'll talk about the tools that I use in order to create the images that I do. And like I said, there are many different ways to approach this, and this is just how I do it. I capture images with a full frame digital camera, live view, raw images, manual focus. I use some focus peaking so I can, focus in better, use the zoom tool so I can actually get exactly what I want to have focused. And I usually just carry one lens with me whenever I go out to photograph. Typically, it's a 24 to 200 millimeter. And I have a little lightweight tripod I have in the backpack that I carry with me sometimes if I want to do maybe a longer exposure or something like that. Just a side note on the New York trip, I don't expect to be doing any of that. So I don't think anybody would need a tripod. I use a 27-inch iMac with a pen tablet. I worked with a woman at the club. She was about 88 years old and she used a Mac. And her favorite expressions was she couldn't use the mouse because it's just like a potato. And I sort of poo-hooed that and said, I'm a mouse man, I can do that. I'm a real man. So, but I eventually wound up taking a pen tool course, and it just changed my life. So all I use on my Mac is the pen tool. I use Adobe Classic. That's been my primary mode of processing images before I started doing what I do now and what I'm going to show you. That meant I had to learn some more about the Photoshop and how it did its work. I do use some DxO Pure Raw 3, and I love silver effects because most of my images are converted to black and white. I also use dynamic symmetry, and I use a root 1.5 diagram. I'm not going to get into the big differences of this because I talk about dynamic symmetry and harmonic armature. I have references in the back of the spread, my presentation here. So if you want to go and look at that, it's not an easy thing to understand and learn up front. I spent a lot of time reviewing and looking at a whole lot of information, trying to figure out what does it mean? Do I want to use it? And is it beneficial to what I do? And I found for me that it typically does. Average processing time for image is anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. Yes, the workshops I've taken, pen tool, gradients, and with Photoshop. From my previous work experience, I was trained a little bit in Lean Six Sigma. Just that process for organizing things so that you don't do repetitive things and it makes your process move in a more not only expedited but error-free way. And one of the ways I use that is that it takes my mind off of how I'm going to process it so much and more look at the actual image I want to have in the very end. And the biggest things with me is trying to make selections because all my images, I have to make selections and then I operate on that particular selection in order to create the light flow that I see that goes through that image. Welcome, Dano, as they say. Let's get started. My preparation is my Lightroom. Viewing an image, I might use Camera Raw, Pure Raw 3. It has some capabilities of, I'll go through them, defining focus a little bit more. And excuse me, but you'll find that at my mature age, I'll start talking and all of a sudden that word will fall off and I just can't say that word. So if you hear me falter, I might just move on and then maybe 3 or 4 sentences later or something, I'll think of that word and it'll pop up again. But right this second, it fell off. In Lightroom, I do a little auto developing just to get everything sort of in an initial way, adjust the highlights and shadows and tweak any little thing I think needs to be tweaked. I straighten and potentially do cropping, and in Lightroom you do have the guided cropping because architectural images with my large format camera training and so forth, you had to sit there and adjust all the elements of that lens in order to get those lines straight and square and rectangular looking so that it came out properly. I also use the dynamic symmetry, and it has an overlay loop. And just briefly about that, on the left side in Photoshop, dynamic symmetry is how where the lines cross, just very basically, are more powerful points of an image, where you might decide to direct light or have an important element of your image in that particular space. I use this as an analyzing tool after the fact. I don't go out and use this and say, yes, I have to move my camera this way in order to get the lines to line up. I do what I feel out in the street while we're walking out there. And when I come back, I look at it and say, how has that worked out? And I'm sort of not training my mind, but just having a sense of what lines mean and how they flow and how you look at them in the final image. So it's available in Photoshop as just a layer. I created my own. They do make presets out of there, but a quick note, with my 4x5, 8x10 experience, I look at my images that way. So all my printed images are 17x22. So I'm not changing, especially doing a lot of competition. I'm not changing matte size and making landscapes here and vertical narrow ones here. I'm looking for my mind to look at that certain way. It's not that I'm right and everybody else is wrong. It's the way I look at things and how I see. So I try to eliminate the extraneous things that play in there, and I don't want to think about those. I want something that's straightforward and so forth. It is available in Lightroom with setups. If you guys decide to look at that, they have downloads you can do and that kind of thing. So you can look at in your develop module, you can look at how your image may go back and forth. I have done an experiment where I've had an image that I scanned, and I aligned randomly five different objects. And I went back and moved them, and eventually one I made according to the dynamic symmetry grid that I have up here. I showed it to a group of people without the grid and asked them which image out of the 5 that I made seemed to attract you most. And everyone picked an image that had the change where I made the dynamic symmetry to it. So it may have some meaning to somebody or whatever, but it's just available if you decide to use that. And in Lightroom, it just really just shows you where you go to get it. I went to look at it a couple of days ago with the updated Lightroom software so far. It's not coming up where it should, because you can go into Lightroom. If you look on this far left-hand side, they have a default that's been in there, which is the typical harmonic armature, which is your rules of 3, your golden ratio and golden spiral, and all those 3 that are normal that, you know, most folks talk about. Okay. All right. First of all, what I try to do is after Lightroom, I'll load my image into Photoshop, copy the background image as a Control-J, which I think you should do for every image that you ever bring into Photoshop, because you work on one, and if you make an error, you lose something, and it just throws you back a ways. I select the background bottom layer, the one with the lock icon. Sometimes I rename it. Then I add a layer, which will become a blank layer that I'll fill with black. And that's how I start off my images. And I'll show you that here. And I wish my presentation enlarger would work here, because it will magnify what I have on the screen. So it makes it a little bit easier to see sometimes. But you'll see the initial layers I have here with this particular building is the background layer, the full solid black layer, and then the copy that winds up on top. We'll be getting back to that as to how I put the light background in there, but at this point in time, I usually do some operation in order to select or isolate the building as to what I finally want to see in my image. So a couple of ways that you can do that, and there are probably many more. But one is you can use a quick selection tool. You can use a background remove tool, which is relatively new, and I have not used that. You can use the pen tool, which is my go-to tool for every architectural image that I use. And like I say, there's probably 4, 5, 6 other options that you know of because you use Photoshop and you know how to do whatever you do. So the quick selection is just clicking on the click selection tool. I clicked on it. It happened to be a clear sky, and it made, it made a selection. The remove tool, which I tried, forms a mask, a black mask that removes the sky out of there. And as you can see, it's clear behind the building. But I'm not a mask person, so I can't tell you how that will work in the end with what I do to make my images. But that's another way of selecting and isolating that particular part. Maybe you could do a Control-J and just save the building, and maybe you don't need the mask after that or something like that. It's not as precise, although you can add and subtract to that particular selection made by removing the background. So if part of your building or piece that you want to select is missing, you can add it back in and take it away, and there's a lot of fine tuning with that. And then there's the pen tool. This is a pen selection in the red that I've made up. I chose red as my color to use because red is my favorite color. And it's very precise. It's savable, so you can reuse it where the others are not as savable. And I did say you can reuse it. Oops. Okay. These are the symbols for using that. The option up top is the sort of brush tool with the little selections around it. The pen tool looks like an old style ink pen. You just have feathers on it, and you can see the subject and remove the background. All to eventually create your marching ants, which is your selection that you're going to do some operation on. In the end, other than the removable, what I do is then use Command or Control X, and I remove the selected portion of that, and that's generally the sky or the unwanted portion of that image that I don't want to see or use anymore. Sometimes it includes trees. I mean, trees might be part of the background. This just happens to be a clear sky, which is just easier to present at this particular point in time. Okay. This I wanted to just to show that this building is. Switch it. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. This is the Beth Shalom synagogue, not far from where I live. On the left is the before image, and on the right is the finished image. But in order to remove the sky and the trees and everything else in there, I used only the pen tool to accomplish that. Okay, now we're going to try to demo the backlit that I make for each individual image. I am going to show you text of how that's done, but then we're going to go into Photoshop, and I'm going to do it while we're in Photoshop because it's very malleable. And by that, I mean that your background lighting, you can set up to any shape, form, or direction that you want to. It's up to you to decide. It's not just a round circle that you put up there like some of mine are. Okay, let's see. As you see, this is where the black layer that we added to the original image over over overposed. What I want to say. Superimposed. Thank you. Superimposed with the building so that you can see just a slight halo behind the building. Eventually, what we're going to get around to is that you can manipulate this at any point in time after you've created it the first time. So, yes, question.
You painted a gradient on the black layer.
You say painted, but yes, you'll see, you can use the word painted if you want, but it's really just a gradient that you are able to control. Okay. Another question, or was that it?
Repeat the question for the.
Oh, yes. Repeat the question, please.
So you painted a gradient on the black layer. So the
Right.
black layer is where the gradient resides.
Yes, the black layer is where the gradient resides, right over top of that. Okay, and what we're going to be going is we'll go down this, we'll have the black layer. We'll select the layer adjustments, and the right arrow here is where you can select the gradient. And you see where it says gradient fill, although it's got the ellipsis there, but that's the gradient fill. Once you've selected that, you have to go over to the right hand side. And over here are three different ways to select a gradient for what we want to use here. One is a transparent to a black, which really is used when you want to maintain the integrity of the original image. Let's say you want to do a gradient over windows that have, I don't know, photos in them or coffee cups or office building. If you want to still see those and still put a gradient over this, then it goes from black to transparent and you move it over so those things still are seen in the final image. There is the one from black to white, which obliterates everything, is only black to white. And it's pretty much the same with the foreground to background. And you can reverse them, is that you don't see any of the building behind there. You just see different shadings of black to white according to how you want to adjust that. And all of your adjustments are on the left-hand side here, where you've selected a gradient field. You can select a linear line look and expand it and contract it. You can do a radial, which is the circle, which is what I have shown before. There's an angle. There's a reflected, which looks more like a star. I'm sorry, no. I'll have to go back and take a look what reflected looks like. But you have a diamond shape, which looks like a four-pointed star that you can expand and contract. So you have to select all of those, and you can play with those. And as you go through your image and continue on to finalize it, you may decide that, I don't like that one. Another one might be different. You can always go back to this and redo this and change it and brighten it up, lower it down, or whatever you want to do. Okay. So you always go back to your image and you review it. And if you want to adjust it again, you just go back to the adjustment layer, the mask on the left-hand side, and you double click on it. It'll take you back to that previous dialog box, and you can make all the adjustments that you want to do. Now, let's see if we can go up here. Go down here. We're going to go into Photoshop. Let me do this.
Hit escape so you run it.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Escape on the
Now, what do I have to do?
bottom. You have PS.
I'm sorry.
On the bottom, you have the PS at the very bottom of the screen.
Oh, yes. Okay. Do I need to do something over here or?
So they can see. So you're going to be turned around. That's the problem. We're gonna be working up here so that they can see what you're doing.
Oh, do I still have control over here?
Yeah. But you're gonna
Okay.
move it over to there. It's easier if you stand this way.
Okay. Let me just, that's okay. Whoops.
Work back.
I've done that several times in my lifetime. Okay. All right. Here is my image that we're going to take a look at that's already been processed, and we're going to go through the different layers so you can see how I actually process it. And yes, I'm a little retentive on how I do mine because I have several different groups. I color code them so it's easy to get back to, because sometimes you have a large amount of mask and images that you have to go back and look at, and it requires that you get back there not quickly, but you have to know where they are. So there's some organization that I do here that's probably a lot more than a lot of other people do. So let's see, let me pull this down. Okay. Okay. Here we have our original image. Let's see. I do have a layer here that I can throw the dynamic symmetry layer over top of just to take a look at it, see what do I want to do with it. Sometimes that also helps me with where I may want to crop, whether I want to move it up or down or so forth. Our black layer is there. Now let me turn this one off. There's our black circle that I've already created. So I'll go back into the gradient fill here. Okay. So it brings up our dialog box. So as you'll see, I've chose up top is, there are a whole lot of gradients. Primarily, you work out of, especially during black and white, out of the basics dialog box. And that's found right here under here, basics. And you'll see the three that I talked about previously, the black to white, the transparent to black, and I forget the technical name of the other one. Does it come up? No. So I selected a black to white, and you don't say okay, you come to the side and close that dialog box out. Then you come down, you select, well, I want a radial. Well, maybe, what if you want that's reflected. I wanted a diamond. What if you wanted a diamond shape instead? Okay, so now you have your diamond shape. How do you want to scale it? Do you want it large or smaller? So you start dragging over the scale. And you can decide how big, how small you want it. You could reverse it and have it go from white to black instead. Align with layer. I don't usually select that because one of the things you can do while this is in the move mode, you can actually move it physically anywhere you want to within the frame. So you can put your highlighted area wherever you want to do in that frame. So this is my test or my presentation one, so we can change things and you'll just see how things work in there. Method and I haven't done much with that. I've just kept it on whatever the default was. I haven't seen that at this point in time affect how my end image comes out. So we'll just leave it like that and say okay. I'm sorry, I'll go back the angle. Let's say you want to turn it just a little bit more. Or you want to turn it, that's 90 degrees. For this particular thing is a different story. For straight line, it does direct which way your light flows. And in some of my images, you'll see that I direct light that throws through windows, through a building, that ideally hopefully give you sort of an S curve so that you go from one side of the image up and over to the other. So, and that's ideally, let me show you that linear. Let's see if we can do that real quick. Come on. Let's reverse it.
You need to drag it in. I think it's off the side.
There it is. Yeah. It's still just a little bit too big. Just for what I want to show here. Anyway, you can make this a single narrow line, but ultimately you can also change that direction. Your light can be graduated on an angle or whatever angle your window or your building shape is and so forth. So, because I use this, no, we'll get to that. So anyway, that's how we use this for creating the background. We'll move that back up there and we'll do this reverse. Any questions on that so far? You're fairly good with that?
Dutch.
Yeah.
Do you use that star? Or is that?
Oh, yes, I have used that star in some of my images. Yes. Yes, yes. This mouse is very slow to react here, so. All right. So even while the picture's up, you can, and you're on this particular layer, the gradient layer you've adjusted, you may decide that you should be able to move that. Okay. So you can see while your image is in process, you can move it any way you want to move that image. Okay. Now I think that's that demo. Now we'll get back to the presentation here. Now, all I have to do now is, oh, and I have to be on this side, right? Okay. Thank you. I know. This is
It's
over here.
okay. Yeah, I see that. It's all the way up top. Yeah, there it is. Okay.
You done with Photoshop?
For right now, yes.
Okay, I'll just minimize
Yeah.
it. And PowerPoint.
Yeah, there, right there. That one, yes, that's it. Okay. Oh, yeah, there it is down there. Thank you. All right, so that's how we get along and do that particular process. Now, once you've done that, it's now time to go back through your image and select particular parts of that you want to make a selection on and be able at a future point in time contrast with that particular section with the section that's right next to it, because a contrast that goes from black to gray to white to black to gray to white and so forth really gives an image a lot of depth. So for making a selection with the pen tool, which is my preferred way of doing that, you select P on the pen tool, and you create something called a path. You just tap the path with your pen tool, and you can do it with your mouse. You don't have to have an actual pen. And you make select the points around the object or subject that you want to select. And then you'll finally get to a point where you want to get to back to the very beginning point that you selected, and that will complete the whole path, as they call it. So you select the path. Once you've done that, you select the path module, which I'll show you in real time. And you double click that particular path that you've made in order to save it. You can name it. I've had as many as 23 or 4 paths or in a particular image because I made that many selections in order to make various changes to their tonality from light to dark, etc.
So you're using the pen tool to create your selections, correct?
I use a pen tool to, yes, I use the pen tool to create my selections. That was the question too. I'll remember the next time. Okay, come on, mouse. Okay. Once you make that first selection and save it, you've got to unhighlight or just click off of it, because if you stay on that one and create another path, both of those become the same path. And we'll take a look at that as we go through this, so that when you make that change and say, finally select those, then both of those, and they may be opposite ends of where you want them to be. So it is a matter of keeping some thought as to, you've made this path, I named them, so I know which one it is and where it is. And I always make a habit of selecting the path and then clicking off of the path so I don't double up on it.
So your path is like a stencil.
The path is, yes, the path is like a stencil
That you can load and unload whenever you need.
that I can load and unload whenever I need it. As opposed to making any other selection. Once you're finished with it, it's done and over. You'd have to go back and remake that selection if you could. You may have deleted some things that you might not be able to do that with. And I'll show you my whole line of the paths that I've created for a particular image. And yes, you can change the color, what color your path is to your desire. Let's see, next one. When you reselect a path and you want to activate it because you want to actually work on that particular selection, you're in the path module. You'll see the path, it's highlighted. It'll turn the minor red, so it'll turn red and show me which path I'm using. And down at the very bottom here where this arrow is the marching ants, and that's the selection. When you select that, your red selection your red lines now become a selection. So then you can flip back over to the layer side, make sure you're on the proper layer, and you can make whatever action you want to make on your that particular selection. This may be I've tried to update this because it does get a little bit technical. So this is not a point where you're Control X. That's just to remove a sky or something like that, or some underwater area. We're not really doing that. So now we have those paths there. And as I was saying, you unhighlight the current path to create a new path. And in order to edit it, you go back and you select the path, click on or hold the Command Control key down and hold on it, and then you're able to edit that path and make it and change it however you might like to change it. And I am going to show you that. Okay. Nope, I don't want that one. We're getting ready to demo curves, but you probably are familiar with this building. This was the original image on the left-hand side. I originally used the quick selection tool to select out the sky. I had to add in and take away different parts because there are a lot of different tiny parts that sometimes get selected that you really don't want, or some that are selected that you do want, and vice versa, or vice versa, or however that is. On the second image, what you really see are the many different paths that I actually created. So this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's some along there. So there's many paths in there that I've created. So I can select any one of those and perform an operation on it. Not only gradients, but whatever other operation I want to perform on it. Oops.
Excuse me, Coach, can you go back?
Yes, I didn't mean to hit that yet. Come on, mouse.
in the boxes where the windows were, is that just the gradient? Because the window detail is gone.
Yes, I decided for this particular image, the windows in this particular, I'm sorry,
Just question,
the,
the selection boxes don't have windows.
right, the selection boxes, the question is, these selection boxes don't have the window showing in them, and why is that? The reason these don't have that in there is because I decided that I did not want the windows in this particular image to show. They were very dark. There was not much detail in them. So I decided just to use the full black to white gradient. And I decided to try to arrange the light so at the very first floor level, it goes in one direction. Apparently it goes up and turns left and goes in the opposite direction, goes up to the next floor, floor 3, and goes back over to the right. And finalizes up at the 4th floor, I guess that is, and maybe up near where those light colored ornaments are, or whatever that is. So is that
You put gradients into each box.
a gradient is into each box? And yes, we will see those shortly. Actually, we're going to see those now.
Want to go into Photoshop?
Yes, I'm going to have to go back into Photoshop. So escape.
Bring Photoshop back up. Way in the bottom.
Photoshop.
There you go. And you're on that screen now.
Oh, now I have to come back around the other side. Okay. This is work. Okay. As we'll scroll up here. I'm going to go over to. Oh, okay.
Two paths in there already.
Yes, here's a particular, since I'm using your Photoshop, or since it's loaded in here, I have a very specific order for mine that includes the paths separate and so forth. So all I have to do is click on them. So what I have to do for this particular presentation with this setup is I have to go back and find them. So your paths are in your properties, and
Those are beside your
layers, paths. Oh, good. Thank you. They're separate on mine already, so I forget where I got it from.
You can just drag it off there and leave it separate.
Yes, that's true. Good. Okay, everybody, let me stretch that down. Okay, so for the very first one. Oh, your color is blue. That's not a big deal, but your color is blue here for your selections and so forth. So you see the blue line that goes around there was one of the very first selections I made with the pen tool. We'll click on the next one. That's the little square diamond right there. And I name these so I know where they are exactly, because sometimes you tend to use them depending on how involved you want to get, and I do sometimes. I have to rename them so I know which one is which. Sometimes you can see the location, but sometimes there are several in that one particular area that you want to get to quickly. So those are all the ones, as you'll see the blue come around. Okay, so what I'll do here is not that one. What I wanted to do, is it this one? No. No, this is a bigger one. Okay, so here's the, I need to get this. Oh, yes, I need the keyboard as far as this goes. So here we have one of the selections that I've created. And what I'm going to do is hit the P for the pen tool. And you see how it turns into a pen-like icon with the little, I don't know, gears around it. And you can come over top of it, and Windows, you'll select your Control key, and then I'm going to click on it. And you see where each point meets is a little square box. Now, one of the other things I want to do is I'm just going to make it larger so you can see what we do here. We'll move that over because we don't need that now. And we'll move this down to here. There's two keys that you use particularly. One is the command key or the control key on a Windows. The control key, as soon as you go over top of it, it turns the solid color. And now you can move that wherever you want to move that. This is really for the creation process, and I'll show you how we create one to begin with. But to edit it, that's how you edit the particular piece that you wanted to do. And I forget where that went. That may have gone right there. And we'll do and move that screen down. And typically I try to draw my lines between, especially in buildings where there's some dark area, because as you make your gradients, you don't want them to go over into another area or for the paths to overlap. There are ways to combine paths specifically or separate them if you want to between several of them so you only operate on some, but that's for a much deeper conversation. But anyway, in order to move them around, that's what you do and so forth. What I'd like to do is just to show you how one is created. I'll go back into the, over here. I will just click off of it so that it's going to create a new path. I will start, control key is down here, shift key is down here. My first point will be there. My second point is there. My next point is there. My next point is there. There. And there. Now that is initially what you do in order to create your path. Then you have to refine it. You come over here. This says work path. It's not saved. If you double click on it, you can now save it with a name. So, and that's how I got all these names on the side, or on the left-hand side dialog box here. I'm just going to say okay and just save it as fast. That now becomes part of your file. So this is always there unless you delete it for some reason or other. So I always click off it. I'll click back on it now. Now I can select it and operate on it and adjust it accordingly. I'm going to hold the control key down, click it. And I'll move this one down a little bit further. And I'll say, well, let me enlarge this just a little bit. Oops. You do have to remember to. No. I just wanted to move it up. I didn't hold the space key down. We'll talk about that in a second. But as you say, I made a point here and a point over there. Now I'm going to select it to edit it by holding the control key down here. And I would like it to come down there. So how do I get it down there? I just hold. I hold the point tip over any particular point on the line. There's a plus there now, and I click once. Now there's an additional point I can work on. Hold the control key down because that's how you move it. And I'll move this point down to there. These other 2 points have not moved. But now you'll see there's a little circular point there and a circular point there connecting to the point I just created. I will now hold the Alt key down. And now I can move this in any direction I want. And ideally, that's how you make it the line move around curves and any other kind of fixed section of the image that you might see there. So this stays that way, saved as that path, no matter what I do. Once I click off of it, I'll click back on it. It still comes up with the curved line. Okay. Anybody have any questions about that? It took me uh, 10 or 15 images in order to get a sense of being able to work this. It's not something you just go in the first day. Like I'm telling you now, if you're not a pen person, you just have to play around with it and get used to it, pick some things to select, and you'll be able to do that. So coming back off it, now that I've selected that particular image or path, I can come down here now to, and I have to see that, that's the selection point. And now I have my marching ants. So anything I do now only operates on that portion that I selected. So I'd go back over to my layers.
That is the official name of that. Adobe's official name, Marching Ants.
Oh, yes. Okay, get me back to my layers, please.
It's over on your paths, it's underneath the paths, so they're grouped on the left-hand side. Layers, yeah, up top tabs.
Okay, I see now.
You can separate it if you need to.
Okay, we're good there. So then I'll go back to my image. And let me just control minus. So whatever operation I decide to do in this particular part is what's going to affect it. So I'll go down to here to, I can do a solid color, patterns, I can do curves, levels, whatever is your desired display. We'll just select curves for right now. And then as you see, I can move this way and up over this way and actually do anything I want to do. If I don't like that, I can always throw this one in the trash. I can delete that one and I can go back to my paths, select it again. Select it, say, oh, well, this time let's do a, layers. I'll get used to this in a minute. Add up there, and I could do a, not curves.
Gradient.
Yes, that's what I wanted to do, a gradient. So now I'll do a gradient. And I'll say I want a radial gradient. So just so you can see how it's done, I can enlarge it. I can reverse it. And well, the radiant doesn't have any direction, so it'll be the same anyway. So you see how you can control how that particular piece that you've selected works. This process works well with architecture because they're generally straight lines and rectangular boxes, and you can more easily isolate those. Yes, there are some buildings, Gary buildings that are curvy. You can make, you can make paths for those also. So it really depends on what you want to do there. So once we've made the path and we made that adjustment, let me move this back. And these are all the curves that I have made to all the different selections. So you see how involved that and each one is named. So I can go back and change that. So I have total control of how the light flows through an image. And really, in the end, that's what you want to do. As it goes further up, we'll put all these on. Oops. Slide this back over on this side, and let me just do a Control 0 so you can see everything. I did do a hue and saturation there to initially change it to black and white. In the end, I'm a big silver effects, so I do that pretty much at the very end. So as you see, I've done all those.
So
Yes, question.
you mean to say that you actually work in the color image through all of this and then convert it after you're all done, all these boxes, et cetera?
Not really, no. You asked if I worked in the color image, ideally only up until the very first part where I put the black background off to put the backlight on it. After that, I do a hue and saturation, and I work at it in black and white because the color throws me off personally.
So I was confused when you said you go to Silver Effects Glass.
Oh, silver effects are the last, all the way up to the very top. That's the last part of the show where I'm a person who tones mine to a sepia tone in the very end. So I take it into silver effects to give it that sepia tone.
So you're not using Silver Effects then for your black and white conversion?
No, I'm not using it for the conversion here. I will say that, yes, sometimes I bring it out of Lightroom into Photoshop. It gets saved back into Lightroom, and from Lightroom, I do the final touches where I may send it back into Silver Effects again, because I have created some presets out of the given presets that I like, and I will select those. I use, my preset is sepia number 19. So
To be clear, then you do your conversion using hue saturation. Are you converted? Are you going from white by desaturating?
I do my desaturation here in Photoshop just to see and make sure everything is black and white. I can see the tones as they change. I can't see that as well on with a color image. And I just really neglected to turn this one on before that particular effect. That's why it's the hue and saturation is very low down on the layers part.
Can you click on it?
Yes.
See the settings?
You want me to click on
Hue
which
and
one?
Saturation, hue and saturation.
All the way down.
Down the bottom.
Oh, okay. Is this it? No.
Purple.
Oh, the purple. Thank you. Pretty much just dragging the saturation all the way down. Okay.
So you take all the color out.
Yeah, just take all the color out of it, and it makes it a faded black and monotone. Okay. Okay, so each selection has now got the desired curve. The next thing to do is the gradients. So there's a gradient for this bottom piece here you see going on and off. And then yes, we changed that one. We'll let that go for right now. And as I add each individual piece, you can see the main one up there, how the windows are that bright. Now they're a little bit darker. Oh, I don't see, oh, there's that one right there. And it's all,
This is you throwing a gradient on top of the original.
this is a gradient on top of the original selection or the selection for that area, yes. So then it comes to there, 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 and there. So in the end, that's what they all, the gradients look like. After that, I will take it into Silver Effects Pro and add on the sepia toning. Now, yes, there may be some additional that I will do with Lightroom after I save this back into Lightroom, because all my images start in Lightroom and then I upload them into Photoshop from there. So, any questions? Yes.
Have you ever used Illustrator?
I was gonna ask the same.
No. I
think it might streamline things for you. Yeah,
Well, the pen tool is very similar to Illustrator.
right.
It is.
It's just gradients. Illustrator gives you control over gradients, and you can have them in multiply mode, lighten mode, screen mode.
But you can do that here too.
But what the advantage of what Illustrator is that instead of navigating through a layers palette, you click directly on the shape. So it actually keeps track of them for you right there on the image.
That's something I will look at. Anything to streamline sounds good to me, but that means learning another process. And I will investigate that because it may be something like you said, streamlines all of that. That may be a good thing. So yes, I've seen the portion that says Illustrator, but I just didn't know what it did. So.
Well, what I was just describing, you'd only have to learn a tiny fraction of it.
Okay.
You've already got the pen tool down. That's half of it right there.
Okay. All right. So thank you. I'll go out and look at it. I'll let you know that I've done something with that because it's always nice to get some other easy way to do that. I will say that for this process that I use here, there is a guy called Jay Vulcan who's from England. I've downloaded some of his processes. He does a video where he goes out and photographs in England a particular location. Primarily, most of them all long exposure of the bridge, the towers, and things you would recognize over in England. He'll then give you a Photoshop file, more extensive than this, and he doesn't make selections with a pen tool. He uses the other quick selection point where you is free form, and he draws out all those individually and works on them right at that moment. So that means once he's done there, he can't go back and change that, but he can always go back and add to it or so, and that's a lot more detailed, but I love his work. So he's referenced in the back. You could go take a look at some of his work and that kind of thing. So it's just an interesting way. Like I say, there's a multitude of ways of doing this thing. So you may see something that you like and you may do something that's your way of doing something and say, oh, wow, now I can add that in or take that little thing that Dutch said, one little thing, and it may make it a little bit easier for you.
That's why can you review again why you do your curves with each one of your selections?
I do all my curves and gradients in order to control the light, to make sure the light goes in the direction I want it to go in the shape that I want it to go. So I guess it's a matter of your preference. I just see it as the curves do one thing and sometimes emphasize something that I can't do with a gradient. And a gradient does some things that I can't do with a curve. And sometimes one over top of the other enhances it so it comes out the way I like it. And I learned this process primarily from Sharon Tenenbaum. She's the one that has the pen tool software or program or training course, and I took that, and that's really what got me into that. And that's typically her style of curves and gradients. So
You're saying you can fine tune it more by using both as opposed to just the gradient?
from my experience, yes, and from what I gather from Sharon Tenenbaum. You may decide that you may only like the curves are enough for you for the style that you want to create. So, and one of the things I want to do is to create a consistent style for what I do, so that when you see it, it does say, oh, that's the same as that, as far as the color, the light, and how it moves through and those kind of things.
I can't quite see it from here, but the bottom green ones, those curves, are they duplicated on the top orange ones with the gradients?
Yes, even with the same title.
Okay.
So you see this one,
Can't read that from here.
right? This one here says left try number one,
Okay,
left
then
triangle
can
number
you
one.
Turn off all of your curves, the greens.
They're
Turn
off.
them back on. Can you see anything
Oops.
going
Oh,
on? In
no, I didn't turn it back on yet. There you go.
I missed it. Do it again. I
Huh.
don't see anything. Oh, they're still on.
Wait a minute, let me go up a little bit further. Doesn't look like they're changing here. I see a blink in
I
there,
see
but
a blink, but I don't see any.
yeah.
Are they going off? Yeah, Dutch. Did they go off?
Oh, turn this off.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
We have to turn the top off first. So
Ah.
these are the curves.
Gradient.
Yes. And then when you add the gradient to them,
Now take
It does that.
now take the green off. Gotcha.
okay.
That answers the question.
Yes, it was on up top.
Do you ever turn some of those off and on like you just did? Oh, I kind of like it like, you know.
Oh, yes, absolutely. You go through this and you have to decide. And I go, that's why it takes sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 hours, and depending on what you want that light to do, which way you want it to flow. So
And with this, you can always go back later and make changes.
every one of these, you can go back later and make a change. Or eliminate it altogether, or add a new one in that combines maybe some of them together. And that's a little bit more technical for this particular presentation, but that is possible.
All your gradients of blended, normal.
Yes, there would be,
Normal blending mode.
these gradients are all from transparent to dark. Because I wanted to have every window show through and every line and everything else that shows through there. So none of these are like the pagoda where I just blanked out the windows altogether and just did a gradient of light.
Did you slide the gradients around to put your transparent spot where you wanted it?
Yes, but I do that when I actually work on the first make the first selection. So yes, that's all done. And then when I look at it afterwards, I'll take the, where is it? Hold a second. Going down a little further. Okay, I'll slide the dynamic symmetry diagram up, and just to take a look, how does the light look with that? Just as a check to see if I want to make anything different. Like I said, I did one experiment. It seemed to indicate that it was a positive effect. So to see that, light does flow. I put it on this. I didn't use it with this particular image. I put this on here just so I could show what it was and another option to use in case you wanted to see how your light was flowing through the image. So, and this is used with either people or whatever subject you're photographing, just to see how the light is. I just find it very nice and useful for architecture.
But,
Yes.
Back to the basic of, you have your initial raw file in color. You did not process the color portion of that first, did you? Or did you do that before you started
Yes.
showing us?
In Lightroom, I do some just standard presets, light balance, tone balance and so forth, cropping and all those things in Lightroom to get a relatively decent image, which you can do in Camera Raw in Photoshop. You don't need Lightroom.
And you do not then use the black and white sliders of Lightroom or Camera Raw because you're doing your own curves here. The sliders or so for blue, green, red.
No, I do not go through blue, green, red, and so forth. I will say that one of the ones I do use in Lightroom is at the very bottom of the module, and Lightroom is not running here right now, but it has a calculate module. And down there's the blue, and I think some of you may know. I generally move that one over to increase the yellows and the reds and to give them much more warm feeling. So it's something one of the people I was watching said he does it for every picture he does. So I've started to try to use that to see how that changes the warmness of that image.
So why would you not do it with the black and white sliders rather than totally desaturate the image?
Because doing something else makes me have to learn something else. And all I mean by that is that I've been a Lightroom person, and I use the same things over and over again. And I sort of have to be brought in to try something new and different. So if you and I were sitting together and you started to show me how that works, then yes, that may be something I would incorporate. But you telling me that and saying, I don't know what to do and how that works until I actually go in and try that. Do you follow what I'm saying? It's really just the less I have to do, the better. And this is a lot of repetitive work and that kind of thing. But if there are lesser ways to do that, I'm willing to look into that. But this has worked for me, and I've got my system down, and it's, I can do it over and over again almost with any image. So, but anytime, like this gentleman here said, was the software Illustrator, then I'm going to go back and take a look at that. And I'll probably email you and ask you what you're talking about and take a look at that to see what that may do. And it may eliminate some of the multiplicity things I do here. So we'll see.
I believe it will get rid of the need to do all your individual curves.
Okay. sounds good to me. Anything less is better. Like I did like when we did the five of us did the individual image to make it our own. And you did something where the lens flare of the sun was up in one corner, and I think you went in Lightroom and moved a slider, and it just sort of melted away. Do you remember that?
I do.
I am going to ask you how to do that again, but that was amazing for me because I'm usually when I'll take, I don't know, a stamp tool, clone tool, put it in a Photoshop and try to get rid of it that way. And that was just a simple, very move. So I like that. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Your workflow, do you try to paint in your lighting consistent with the light source, or is that not a consideration?
No, I create my own light source and it could come from two different directions.
That's why I've gone this way.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, in my mind, it's, you know, there's the light on the building and yes, there's a background light. I do think about whether that has any impact on what I'm seeing, but
Can you show us the cathedral again, or not the cathedral, the synagogue again, to illustrate that point?
let's see, the mouse, yeah.
Minimize this.
Having seen a number of Dutch's images, there's just in person, in print, there's staggering. And did you bring in print stuff? I give you the chills.
Hold this 1 second.
But let me see the synagogue.
Oh, yes, I'll be taking back this thing up. All right, I'll get this in here. Let's see, over there. Oh, I gotta go around this side. All right, we're going to the synagogue. Let's see.
The image on the right there, the pagoda looks different than I saw somewhere on Facebook or something. Is that the one you?
Oh, yes, the right is not the final image.
Do you have that one too?
Yeah, it's on there, but I don't have it. I can't put it on here. Yeah.
I can't remember.
I wonder if could I get it with this thing?
There you are.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
We got it.
All right, I think we got it now. All right, let's see. The pagoda.
Actually, it was a synagogue. It's-
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the synagogue. Yeah, I think that was this way. No. Up there it is. There. So in the background,
It's like a movement in the background, lighting in the front of the building.
yes, there is a slight. And it's not as easy to see these things on a monitor. I hate monitors. I like to see an image hanging up on the wall. So there is I did do a circular one here, but it's very faint. Most of it was light coming as I saw it directly straight down. I guess you can imagine that from the moon it's coming straight down, but it's all in your mind and what you feel and what you think. So
You're talking about on the building itself.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
light is coming from the front left of the building.
So that's what he's doing with all those gradients. And
Yes, but the moon is, what would be maybe the moon is in the back.
yes,
The light source.
so it's not specific. I don't make it specifically directional that, yes, the light source, like Vince was saying, the moon in the back is where the light is coming from. For me, it's you'll see the little lightness in the back, but for me, it's the actual building and sort of feeling that the light is coming straight down on it from above. Okay, we'll finish up. Oops. And ultimately, to finish up, what I wanted to show you was that these particular images actually never really met my expectation after I finished them. you can see the directional line there of this one on the far left-hand side. It's too strong and bold and narrow, and it really doesn't do much for me. The building, second one over, the building in Allentown, I did use the
That's a diamond.
the diamond, yes. This is one of the buildings up in New York we'll see. But I just didn't get the kind of contrast and differences in tones that I wanted out of it. And this, oops. And this building on the right-hand side is right at the Philadelphia side of the Ben Franklin Bridge.
That's
So-
it. With these architecturals, you don't always straighten your lines. You use kind of creative perspective as. Well, as
I-
you can see,
Well, if I'm standing down and looking up, the building's going to be obviously out of perspective. So when I do straighten it up, it does tend to make the building out of sync. Yes, the lines are straight, but the building could look, is that really?
You do that in Lightroom first.
I do that in Lightroom first, yes. I just find that because I'm a Lightroom person. I'm sure you can do it in Photoshop. But this is the parking lot up in Allentown. Up again, the pen tool, but I took out all these other side pieces and poles and signs and all that kind of stuff.
but
And
to my point on the right, you purposely, I'm assuming, did not make that tower straight. You left it leaning a little bit.
I noticed that after the fact. I am going to go back and straighten it up, though. Yes, I did notice that.
I didn't know if that was your creative
No.
choice or not.
No, I really prefer my buildings to be architecturally straight and square. Yes.
That was the
Yeah.
crux of the question.
One of the things that was unusual with this particular building is that these two side panels that look like they might be glass. It was only because of the way I created the gradient for this side and gradient for that side. These black lines weren't there. So I went back in, I'm sorry,
It's fantastic.
I went back in and added those black lines just as solid black because it made it look like there was glass, because otherwise it was just this faded section on each side. So, like you see the side over here, there's no glass on that side, but the way the gradients worked out, it just made it look like that. So I said, well, let me see if I can make it look like glass. This is one of my favorite buildings. This is up at the NECCC up in Amherst on the main street there. And they're coming back, if any of you guys used to go there next year. They're having it in person.
What?
NECCC. They're having in person instead. Yes.
What is that?
New England
Consortium of photo clubs or something.
yeah.
So what is that building?
Oh.
What is?
This is an office space. I've taken this so long ago. I don't know the name of it. It's right on the main street into the campus. But this office space in there. This is a hallway that goes to the other side, to the next street over. But obviously, what you see is I cut the building out altogether, and at the very bottom, you'll see that the building sort of goes in a octagonal cutoff shape. So I actually took the concrete here and expanded it and put it underneath the building. So as you put these layers up, you could sort of, and I'm not a Photoshop person per se, but I just needed to have something there for it to stand on. So it looks like it's sort of sitting up in the air. And then you get rid of all the stuff on the left and the right of it. This is up in Allentown, the St. George Orthodox Church. Actually, I have this picture here in my that I'm going to just pass around so you guys can take a look at. And these are just some of the other sample images. Like you said, I did use the diamond shape there. And yes, this building is straight, but you see it sort of looks wide at the very top. It's because you're looking at it like this, and And this is which you have an opportunity to take if you're going to trip at the Navy Yard. Whoops. This is the Intrepid building. So be interested to see what University of Pennsylvania Hospital. Very nice architecture that they do around there. And just to say, I do color besides the black and white. And I have the references on the back that you can take a look at if you want to investigate anything further. Vulture Labs, I'm a fan of Cole Thompson. And these two videos on dynamic symmetry and harmonic armature, one was done by B&H. So if you take a look at those, you can, or presented with the presenter who was doing it at B&H. You can see what the difference is and whether it applies to you, whether you want to use it for your work, whether it's architecture or portraiture or whatever. So, and that's the end. And thank you very much. I'm sorry, any other questions? Yep, that's it. Thank you. And now. Oh. Don't lay down.
Right, let's see if there's anything in the chat, because we haven't been able to follow the chat.
Okay.
Let's see. I don't see.
You guys hear me?
You gotta move it over.
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, chat. We look.
We're still.
Okay.
Everybody out in Zoom
I
land.
don't see any.
Any questions?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Angel.
Angel?
Okay, sorry I couldn't make it in today. I'm not feeling too good. I was playing around with Photoshop as he was doing the presentation, and sort of a comment, not a question, but I didn't realize that you can actually layer. So if I wanted to do like a solid color instead of gradient, where it allows the object to shine through, the details will go through the layer. I colored the layer in full and then layered a gradient on top of it as well. So that was interesting to see that you could actually layer those on top of each other as well. This is my first time playing around with Photoshop, and it made it a lot easier for me to understand. Before, I was just getting frustrated with it.
Well, if that clarifies anything for you, I'm very happy. Do you have, did that answer your question, or you're satisfied? Okay, that's good. Thank you.
I know Adobe has a lot of good tutorials on their Adobe college or whatever, university, Adobe University. So if you're looking for like a pen tutorial, they have a lot of good stuff out there in Lightroom, Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator for free. That's where I would start with any kind of tutorials, is right on Adobe. I think they call it University.
Something like that, yes.
So they break it down to the beginners, the intermediate, and the experts. And it's a really good resource. So Angel, you're not feeling well.
We see some of the your print stuff.
Yes.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording.